Can we please do
Do you actually have to do the hand movement?
No, only in high school, but a lot of debaters like a lot of formal debaters will still do it, especially European and American. American debaters are interesting because they walk forward and they walk forward onto the floor and like make eye contact. Okay.
Alright, cool. Okay, hello everyone and welcome to episode 7 of The Uncommon Room. My name is Michael and today I am joined in the studio by
Katy, hello.
Suchi.
Nick. James.
Edmond.
Tessa.
Cool.
Quick warning, Edmond is on drugs at the moment, so if he does start seizing, we should probably call an ambulance.
What drugs are Edmond on today?
Today.
Legal drugs.
Oh, that's boring. That's boring.
Enough said.
Fairly legal drugs.
Cool. Before we start, something which I actually want to quickly take note of was from listening to the podcast frequently when I had to edit it, I found that I say like a lot, or at least I've been complaining about it to a few people yesterday and today. Edmund's nodding his head. It's interesting because I've had people like say I do and other people say I don't. So I'm going to make a concerted effort to be very conscious of using that word today. People call me out on it. That's my quick thing out of the way. What do you guys want to talk about?
The frequency of the word like in general conversation. Why not? Like, why do we say it so much?
Well, I think it's very common. A lot of people want to be saying things. People feel uncomfortable not actually saying anything in a conversation. People are embarrassed to take a moment to think and not say any words. That's why people use interjections like and a lot of people like debaters use like as a verbal crutch, and it's a bad habit that we need to get over, I think.
Edmund, did I ever tell you you have a voice for radio and indeed a face?
Just the entire thing right now, I was thinking to myself that like I'm not. See right there, I use the word like just then. I'm not in a podcast, but rather Edmund's just giving a radio sermon, or just gathered around listening to him.
It sounds like the ABC like light listening at 4:00 in the afternoon. Edmund, well, you see the thing about interjections and verbal crutches. You see,
He's just got a script.
and after this, we'll have a nice Swedish orchestral piece by.
By Bjorn Lomborg.
Relevant.
Good segue. Okay, who wants to start with Bjorn Lomborg talk then?
Oh, good God.
Okay, so again, there you go. I said like again. All right, here's the thing which I don't entirely understand. I like to think that I'm relatively well informed when it comes to most things. I think I might have the story a little bit incorrect about Bjorn Lomborg, or at least I might not be entirely up to date with the facts. But I've been struck a little bit that I feel as though the man has been tarred with one too many brushes, as I stated earlier. That I think that everyone should be complaining about Bjorn Lomborg coming to UWA because the man apparently, from all accounts, is a terrible scientist and has awful academic credentials and methodology. But I feel as though a lot of people are making a lot about the fact that he is a, quote, climate denier, which might be a little bit untrue, but also I think that you can't really, make ideological compartmentalization of what you can and can't support in academia in general.
I think there's a difference between supporting something in academia and giving it such a platform above any other academic, especially considering the rather controversial nature of Bjorn Lomborg's work. And while we can say, in an ideological sort of debate-land place, that there's no such thing as bad research, that all free speech in academia should be allowed to manifest itself and develop organically. But at the point where you have someone that thinks that climate change is actually a really good thing because it stops the number of people dying from hypothermia, that's actually one of his major sort of claims, that it actually stops cold deaths and will actually increase plant productivity and generally just save humanity, is probably not very helpful given we actually have countries sinking into the ocean.
I mean, to be fair, it probably does stop cold deaths though, so...
It opens up a lot of agricultural land in Russia and stuff, but that's not helping Australians, is it? So Nick, I set that up there.
So, fun science facts 1101, and we'll have a bit of I used to be a science student. So, firstly... Well, yeah, it was a very poor year where I realised after failing several units that perhaps the scientific pursuits were not for me.
It was better than doing engineering for 2 years.
Yeah, that's true. We didn't do a couchman. Are we allowed to say I feel couchman's a noun.
Guys,
these
I
days.
don't want to have to keep using the bleep tool this episode.
Okay, sorry, couchman. But yeah, so it actually doesn't, because there's still a lot of things about soil types, which means that crops aren't just transferable all over the world. Additionally, you've still got the problem with, other limiting factors in Russia, such as sunlight amounts. It's not necessarily the temperature, it's the amount of sunlight the plant actually gets. So, all in all, Bjorn is just not entirely correct.
Point of information on that.
Oh, yes.
I think there's a lot of truth to what you're saying, and there's also some other interesting effects of climate change on crops and producing food. What it tends to do, I heard this recently from a man who works at the Bureau of Meteorology, is that you get more extreme climates. So while you definitely do get more rainfall, and intuitively that sounds like a good thing, doesn't it? But it's not necessarily good because the rainfall is distributed in a way that's extremely destructive. You get really, really big downpours after huge long droughts instead of even rainfall across the year, which would be much better for crops. So while you might think there are a lot of benefits in terms of global warming to producing agriculture, there's a lot of harms that prevent you from actually getting any substantial outcomes.
Well said.
I agree.
Thanks for that. So we want to move on to the less like.
It seems like a really awful radio show. I'm
barely listening.
Compared to last week when we started off talking about how much we hate car ads compared to alcohol, and then we need more entertaining. James, tell me something entertaining.
Tell you something.
You have the floor.
Oh no.
Yep.
This is bad.
On Bjorn Lomborg or anything else?
No, not Bjorn Lomborg.
Something
Anything else.
entertaining.
Yep,
What's my story?
I'm on the spot. I haven't got anything.
What do you like specifically about Birkenstocks?
What do I like about Birkenstocks?
Oh, no.
Oh, the number of times I get asked if I'm a 19-year-old girl because I wear Birkenstocks is just over the moon.
Wait, what's wrong with Birkenstocks?
I think they're beautiful.
There's a lot of debate about it, There's a lot of people that say Birkenstocks are the worst shoes they've ever seen. Other people say to me, if you're going to be wearing sandals, why not just wear thongs? But then on the flip side, they're also very comfortable and objectively do look very good.
See, I'm going to interject here. Now, on a scale of heeled boots with black leather.
I can't not hear everyone else using the word now. This is fucking killing me.
Oh, shut up.
Sorry, go on.
On a scale of beautiful contour boots and Franz's pink salmon thongs
that red.
that I have binned now twice, I think.
I don't have any other thongs. You can't just throw them anywhere.
On a scale
I'm getting this mental image of Franz just digging through the bin going, bloody Katy.
I want to burn them. They're if anyone sees Franz's thongs lying on the place, please steal them because they're horrible. But no, on a scale of that, Birkenstocks are hovering around the 0.2 mark of dislike.
Wow.
So,
I think as far as fashion crimes go, Birkenstocks are probably on the lower scale of what we have to worry about.
Yeah.
I think.
Oh, really? What do we have to worry about?
Male hair, I would have to say, is undisputably.
I will point out to our listeners right now that Edmond is a well-dressed gentleman, so everyone take him seriously.
I take my fashion very seriously, but male hair right now is one of the most atrocious things I have seen in fashion for a long time. I mean, the man bun, please.
I mean, in fairness, you are wearing chinos and olive boat shoes, so I don't know.
Don't diss the mod uniform.
Edmond has to be constantly ready to be summoned to a boat party at moments.
Boat parties are an important part of my social life, people.
You legitimately you could go to a boat party right now. I can see that.
Thanks.
Anyway.
I'll take that as an offhand compliment.
I want to quickly say, what are Birkenstocks? I know they're shoes.
They're-
I really don't
They're
know
like
what
the
they are.
sandals that look sort of
Oh,
higher
Like
quality.
sandals
They've
that
got
pay a
like
lot more money
the
for.
The Crocs?
really
They're those-
no, not Crocs.
They're those ones that I wear that have a thick base to them, but then the big
Yeah, it's
double
it's
black
quite a
straps on
wide
them.
sort of black strap
It just
across
feels
quite
like
a few
lot
of
of money
those.
for paying for a brand. Just one of those things where you're I have Birkenstocks in the same way.
Well,
that
but
you
it's more than just a
Doc
logo.
Martens.
It's like an Eames chair where you've got the
It's a
design
wave.
aspect
It's a
as
wave,
well.
yeah, it's a lifestyle.
It's a genuinely
Oh, those
unique
things.
looking product.
oh dear.
Yeah, Franz that has a very distinct face of disgust.
Would you just not call those leather sandals, though?
No, I think
But
they're
they're
not.
not-
They're not
Doc
though.
Martens, even though they're just boots.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's
Is there some
Birkenstocks.
equivalent?
It's a
They're
way of
also
life.
they're specially built in the same way that Doc Martens are specially built shoes. It's not just
They're
boots.
Accidentally
Yeah,
built shoes.
Doc Martens have a specific Doc Martens sole in the same way that Birkenstocks have a cork sole.
I was gonna say. I was gonna ask.
I'm
are
very-
Birkenstocks
All-
acid
all-
resistant?
All
I don't think
shoes
so.
are built in a particular way.
I'm very
A
boring,
particular
Franz.
insert.
You don't accidentally make shoes.
But speaking of brands, actually, here's an idea I have, which a few people are for, a few people are against. Homeopathy.
Oh,
I want
here
to
we go.
start my own homeopathy business. To be clear, I don't believe in homeopathy at all. It's stupid. But apparently the key term behind it, which is like successive, which is subsequent dilutions of water from an original solution until eventually you have like 20 of those dilutions at like 10% each. You literally have the same equivalent outcome as just pure water. So I can start selling distilled water on the internet. Don't even bother with this dilution process. Just sell diluted water. Distilled water, and call it a homeopathic solution. And you can sell for like $20 a vial on eBay.
Definitely.
It's a viable business, yeah.
But people have been saying I shouldn't do it because
I mean, you probably shouldn't from a moral standpoint, right?
Well, like, why do homeopathists sell these, these witch doctor medicines, and that you can't reject that on a moral standpoint? I think it's just as bad, and you should be allowed to do that.
But there is something, like, you're not allowed to sell things that you claim to be something that it isn't. You can't be like, it's a watered down version of a thing.
But I won't claim that
it's a watered down
I
version
will
of
claim
water.
it's a homeopathic solution.
Isn't one of the sort
it's
of...
actually really funny. There's a TV show called Checker. I don't know if people watch it. It's very funny.
It's a good show.
And in one of the sections they were talking about a homeopathic company that got sued for false advertising. And then they cut to this person and be like, we believe a very watered down version of the fine would be much more suitable.
One thing I think that probably the one moral problem I see in Franz's otherwise fantastic argument is that you're deceiving people pretty horribly. People get a lot of value about the process that things go through. So we see that a lot in like sprinkling holy water on things or smashing a bottle against a ship when it's being launched.
My point
They'll never know.
It's literally an identical experience, though. The process is completely irrelevant.
Yeah, that's true. If people think it's a placebo,
Again,
like if they think that it's done it.
I would be selling placebo.
I mean, distilled water is, the main ingredient in the homeopathic process.
Exactly.
So,
You compare it to something else, like on a large scale. Like, you couldn't sell a placebo for something else and get away with it. Like,
people do it all the time.
Homeopaths do it.
Okay, wait. Hold on. The thing is that the thing with homeopathy, having experienced it firsthand, because my granddad is very into it, coming from a very Indian background, in certain cultures, it seems to be a more spiritual and religious way to get through rather than going towards the science thing. So there's that religion and science clash over there. So in India, a lot of people tend to take homeopathy thinking that it's a more spiritual way to get cleansed and to heal the body.
So, but what is it? Is there actually a distinction in practice between homeopathy?
There is. Like, they do have clinics where people specifically go to get homeopathic like medication and healing. So
There's an actual procedure or the way which homeopathy is I suppose, like treated to people. Is that distinct in the way they actually introduce spiritual elements to that as well, or is it literally just the watered down solutions?
I think it's a watered down solution.
I think that's the idea behind it.
It's the idea behind it. Like, I think what they do is that they pretty much brainwash people into thinking that there's a much more complex process behind it. So
effectively, I would be selling a product which is chemically identical to a quote-unquote real homeopathic solution over the internet, where obviously people aren't getting a huge amount of like personal spiritual guidance from me as an individual. Surely if I'm just a supplier of quote like homeopathic solutions, there's no real like issue there. People are not being deceived. I'm literally giving them an identical product. Or you can't prove that I wouldn't have been doing it homeopathically anyway, because like...
That's true. Just do it.
Yeah.
Give it a shot. See how it goes.
Do it,
I probably won't because I'm super lazy, but...
well, that's a different story.
From my time in France, when you go to pharmacies, the French are, and I don't really want to say this because I like quite a few of them, but they are quite insane about their organic produce and their homeopathy and stuff. They're also massive hypochondriacs, so they have massive pharmacies, and it's like they don't actually want to see the doctor, they just want to get some sort of over-the-counter medicine. But you can find on all of the shelves like homeopathic treatments for all sorts of things, and it's really quite scary to think that people can just buy this without knowing where it comes from. But I suppose, it doesn't matter if it's just the same thing, but they can do it, so why can't you?
I suppose I'm actually lying about making it distinction.
See, what the solution might be in, my mother actually believes in the healing power of tea and, oil extracts. So whenever I'm ill, it's, peppermint tea and lavender oil, flicked over the pillow. So you can sell tea and, use that as a placebo because, according to like her Scottish upbringing, that's like the tried and tested cure for
No,
everything.
tea is actually a product which you need to have decent tea to sell well to people.
You don't really. Have you had any Liptons? It's disgusting.
Well, I don't like tea in general, but I assume there
Lipton.
is variation in the quality.
No, how can you not like tea?
But
Because
isn't-
it's leaf water.
So coffee's bean water.
I don't drink
a
coffee
cake
either.
is a sugar-like mass.
Beer
Like,
is bread
every
water.
meal-
Hey, how
We
can
had
you
a-
not
You
like
don't like
tea?
water.
So you don't like alcohol, you don't like coffee, you
No,
don't like tea.
I like alcohol. I don't like the taste of it.
Okay, so all
The
right.
taste of tea and coffee, actually.
Something I'm curious about now, though, is am I the only one here whose parents didn't give them some form of homeopathic or alternative medicine?
My mother's a doctor, so like I received.
Oh, my
I got
mum.
homeopathic medicine.
Parents would have never given me any witch
My,
doctor style
my,
stuff.
my grandparents used to be like, oh yeah, give it to her, like it will help her. But mum and dad were just like, okay, we'll take it, but we're not gonna give it to her.
Is homeopathy the one that also has like the sugar pills, like the tiny little?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, because I
That's
grew
the
up with
one.
those
Is that
instead
the
of
placebo?
placebo.
Stuff.
Yeah, it's just sugar
It
pills.
is,
Like it just
pretty
tastes like
much.
sugar, but I grew up with that instead of actual medicine.
But
so-
homeopathy is a very particular thing. It's where you
I
have
also wasn't
like,
vaccinated.
it's where you
Oh,
add like what
Jesus.
you make a solution one
So
part
at
and
this
you
moment,
use
we
9
kicked
parts
Tessa
together.
out of the room for not being
I'm
vaccinated.
vaccinated now because I have to
Speaking of-
be because of other
Harriet,
reasons.
sorry, no, I won't believe this. Harriet is not vaccinated apparently, or is she?
We've had reports that she is vaccinated.
Okay, but her claim was she was vaccinated homeopathically,
Oh yes, we had
but
this.
via
as well.
prophylaxis, which doesn't work, and that's actually super dangerous.
Yeah.
Not being vaccinated.
I had to be vaccinated. My doctors were like, you have to physically get vaccinated. Your immune system can't handle like getting any of these diseases. Like, but my mum didn't like growing up. My mum didn't believe in stuff like that. So I, like on forms for school excursions, they'd be like, "When was your last tetanus shot?" And I was like, "Never."
See, before going to Libya, we had to have about 12 vaccinations over the course of a week, and it was probably the worst experience of my life.
Oh, that's a bit heavy.
And I think after getting the rabies shot, the entire family, because we all had to go through together,
Yeah.
walk into the car park and like simultaneously just like started throwing up in the car. It was pretty, and now I'm like terrified of needles and won't let them anywhere near me. So.
Oh my
Oh,
goodness.
that's
I can sympathise with that to an extent. I've been to Tanzania and Zimbabwe, and my left arm was probably dead for about a week after all the injections I received going there. It's not a lot of fun, people.
I received lots of injections, like going to Malaysia and all the various places I've lived around. It wasn't that bad. It's tough enough.
Yeah, well, I had to get so many different types of needles because like I have to get infusions every 2 months,
Yeah, that sucks.
and then blood tests in my other arm, and along with vaccinations every flu season. And you know other needles that you get, like when you get piercings and you get your wisdom teeth taken out, or you get other teeth pulled out because they stick a needle mouth to numb it, and like you just, I'm so desensitized to it now that I don't think about being scared. Like I can't afford to be scared of needles because of how much.
Do you know-
I had to like self-inject for a while as well, and that was.
No. The best way to avoid needles and everything, what I found at uni, is
healthy.
not to go to the doctor. Because once I got to
Just
uni-
don't get sick, basically.
Well, I tried that. It doesn't work so well after exam periods when I'm a zombie. But like once I got to uni, I was like, all right, you can start making your own appointments. And I realised I've been actually calling the doctors and making an appointment on the phone. And I don't really like doing that. So my wisdom teeth were meant to be taken out a year ago. And the dentist was like, you have to make an appointment with this other clinic. And I was like, okay, cool. And the card is sat on my desk, and I just hope that, I'll survive the
You
process.
hope they'll dissolve.
Yeah, well,
Go away.
I eat enough sugar that, like, hopefully at some point they're just going to disappear of their own volition.
Well, I mean, earlier this year I had glandular fever, but we didn't know that at the time. And this was just around the time of the whole Hep A in the berries scare, right? And we went to the doctor and he was going, "Oh, you're not looking good. You've got jaundice, like you could have Hep A." It was very stressful. So, I'm thinking, shit, I've been eating these things for like 3 months, like what's going to happen? But, vaccines are very helpful. Turns out I only had glandular fever and I only had jaundice for a couple of weeks. But Hep A didn't get to me because I went to Vietnam and had to get vaccinated for it.
I have a theory that Oompa Loompas have jaundice because they only eat chocolate.
Is this another
Their livers are
religion
gone.
is actually Satan?
No, that's a separate thing.
Is this
it's
like
true.
one of the things about the economic policy in Frozen?
The economic policy in Frozen is fucked. No, the issue was about the massive famine which it caused, but we'll move on to that another time. No, I just want to throw it out there that although Willy Wonka is actually Satan. I have
No.
proof.
True.
You have proof.
Well, I have random speculation.
Photographic
based on
evidence.
things
No,
watching
don't
books.
ruin it. No.
What do you mean ruin this? Have you not read the book yet?
I
I mean, don't ruin her childhood
Yeah.
with theories of satanic Willy Wonka.
Look, I'm fine until you start on the Harry Potter. Like, you just please don't do
No.
that. Harry Potter is a perfect universe.
Yes,
and you cannot
it is.
No, okay. Here
Franz
Don't,
can try and ruin
Franz.
are my Willy Wonka
No.
stuff at least then.
No.
Alright, so firstly, Willy Wonka, everyone agrees, he's, even if he was not actually Satan, he's just an evil man, yes? Everyone agree on
Definitely.
Yeah, pretty much.
Human experimentation, hugely unsafe working environments. Like, he has a whole bunch of kids, like, literally mutilated by going through his factory. He has access to amazing technology, food science, matter teleportation, rocket propulsion. He chooses to fucking market chocolate rather than use it for the rest of the world. And that, human slavery, basically. He takes a bunch of...
He pays.
Pygmies.
He pays them in cocoa.
They want
exactly.
cocoa.
That's got to be in violation of some sort of labour law. Then. You
They
cannot pay your
want
employees
cocoa.
in
The
food.
Oompa
My
Loompa
question
Union.
is, where is the Labour Party when you need them? The Oompa Loompas.
In the original draft of the book, though, the Oompa Loompas were actually meant to literally be black pygmies, but they changed it because they thought it was going to be a little bit too racist.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, I know, right? And if you think, he hasn't actually changed that much. They still come from an isolated African nation where he just basically went and kidnapped an entire tribe and moved them straight to his factory. It's like, you work here now for food. Like, that's not okay.
Also, their names are Oompa Loompas, which is not a good
Like, they don't
starting
have-
point.
That might be their own name, though. So, like...
Yeah, true. Having said that, though, it is still a fiction, right?
Huh?
Like, they're not actually...
It's fictional, granted, but I think it shows that Roald Dahl was secretly racist.
If
Oh,
you
he
look at-
definitely was.
if
He
you
was an
look at- so
anti-Semite.
How's this Satan then?
No, that's Walt Disney.
No. Roald Dahl was a massive anti-Semite.
Was he?
Yeah.
Oh,
Really?
interesting.
Some of his short stories for adults are really fucked up. Have you read any of his
The one
short
that-
stories?
Have
for
you
adults?
seen any of his illustrations? I'm not
Little
surprised.
fingers cut off?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was another one where this this boy was like horrendously bullied by these two other guys, and they literally took him out to a field and shot him and like hunted him down, like Lord of the Flies stuff. And he they shot a swan and tied the swan's
Oh, I
wings
remember
to his
that one.
arms, chased it around, shot him in the back, and then he managed to like fly home on bleeding wings and die in his garden.
What? He didn't die in his garden.
Well,
He
he-
died like a couple of years ago. That was the story.
Oh, yeah,
Sanity.
you don't know if he died.
I mean,
but it
I
was
feel like the fact that Tim Burton directed 2 movie adaptations of Roald Dahl books says enough.
What was the second one?
Mm.
James the Giant Peach.
Oh, I didn't know he did
That was a good movie.
It terrified me as a
So
child.
he had his like the short story of his Six with Me is apparently not apparently I read it. He wrote one which is about a guy who makes a bet with a stranger in a bar that the man can light his cigarette lighter 10 times in a row without failing. And if he does light 10 times in a row, because it was old cigarette lighters, ones which like wouldn't always light if you tried. If he could light 10 times in a row, he'd get the stranger's car. But if he failed once, his little finger on his left hand would be cut off.
Did he fail?
I don't want to spoil the ending. People who might not have read the story yet.
Oh, I
Oh
won't
my
read
God.
it. I can tell you that.
Because we're all
What
so
is it?
concerned about the
Look.
spoilers of an old Roald
I
Dahl
feel
book.
like
If we really want to get into spoilers, let's talk about Game of Thrones, hey?
No.
Every
I
podcast this comes up.
We should
No.
definitely move on to Game of
Have
Thrones.
you read it yet? I mean, have you seen the latest episode yet?
No, I haven't.
I've only read the
Oh.
first book, please.
Just putting it out there. I don't watch Game of Thrones, and I haven't read any of the books.
You
Oh.
traitor.
I watched the
You
first.
deserve to have
I watched
spoilers
the
for you.
first episode, and it freaked me out because of the amount of blood. I don't even know why, but yeah.
Okay, well, this should be relatively spoiler free, but not my theory, it's not really theory, it's what I think is happening with the show, is because now they've definitely reached the point where the series is going to outpace the books. They've actually reached a point where they're saying, okay, we're going to cut a lot of stuff in the books out instead of trying to stretch it out. So they're going the opposite route, where they're trying to conclude it faster rather than try and make it last for longer. And I think if anyone's read the books and is watching the show right now, you'll notice there's a lot of things which happen in the books. They don't disappear, but they're being reworked. So a lot of things being condensed, and characters doing things which other characters would have done. So they don't have to introduce many people. So
It's incredibly frustrating.
If you think about it,
I didn't get all that hipster cred, and reading the books first for nothing, and now it's all backfired horribly.
Well, now we can just complain about on podcasts about how it's not remaining true to the story.
How is that not hipster cred?
Yeah.
Complaining
That's
on a
true,
podcast.
That's true.
If anyone who wants to compliment us on hipster cred, you can write into us in podcast.
I feel like I'm trying to read the books after all of the seasons have kind of come out, and I don't know if it's worth it anymore.
Oh, they're fantastic books.
Like, would you recommend I continue to read all the books
Yeah,
before
definitely.
trying to start watch the series?
Although A Feast for Crows is a bit of a slog. It is like
Or like,
legitimately,
since the new season's coming out, should I just try and power through the TV series and go back to read the books later?
I feel like at this point they're becoming different things. So
Yeah, you might as well like get
Just do them
get
simultaneously?
get the books done. Enjoy the TV series
At the same time?
Yeah,
Yeah.
simultaneously.
I think it's an interesting issue in Game of Thrones, though, the way they introduce lots of new characters and create new plot arcs without resolving previous ones, or having those new characters interfere with the old plot arcs.
Like
It's
what?
called complexity, Edmond.
Well,
It's nuanced.
I love complexity as much as everyone else in this room, but I think there reaches a point where you're expanding the story for the sake of expanding it. And I'm sure HBO is making millions of dollars off extending the story, or rather, George R.R. Martin is making millions of dollars off extending a story that could otherwise be like a fantastic story. I mean, I'm sure we all agree that the simple War of the Five Kings is a fantastic story, and we've sort of extended that to an insane length. And everyone's starting to laugh now, so I better stop talking.
it's just the way you
There's
talk.
too many
It's
stories
so
in my story. I like my story pure, like I like women and my race.
Yeah, but the issue is, even when you're talking in conversation, you sound as if you're reading off a teleprompter.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I'm curious, Edmond, what books did you read growing up?
Long, boring ones. Actually, no. The first books that I read that I really got into were the Del Toro Quest
Same.
series.
Okay.
Actually,
Wonderful,
same.
yeah.
Those were decent books. We were at, what's that cake place in Leeville
I
called?
don't know, it's just a weird cake place.
No, we heard the name of the cake place in Leeville, anyone?
which part of Leaderville, Oxford Street? Or
The
Yeah,
main street.
they're
No,
like-
the cafes.
do you
It's
mean
got a lot of
Greens?
branches.
Greens and Co?
Greens and Co, I think. it is.
Yeah.
We were there.
It says,
Oh,
green,
yeah, the
it says
cake
Greens
place.
and Cock now.
Well, that's,
Wonderful.
we were there a while back. It probably was for Valentine's Day, actually. It's probably a couple
It
months
wasn't.
Super
back.
Valentine's
romantic.
Day
Not
was
really.
was getting drunk in like my house and
Okay.
watching Twisted.
We went
That's
out,
beautiful.
We went out to
So
dinner.
romantic.
somewhere.
Pretty great.
We went to Greensgo afterwards, and they were playing a Japanese anime, which was an adaptation, a fairly faithful one, from I could tell, one episode of Del Toro Quest on the TV in there.
Yeah, that's on. That's actually on ABC.
Yes, the Del Toro Quest cartoon series does actually exist. And I was devastated when I found it because it ruined exactly how I'd interpreted the books.
Also,
Devastated.
it does not stay true.
did you
Like
read
it
the
pretends
second
to
of
for
those?
the beginning of it, and then it just expands and expands and
Like,
expands
the
until
one
it lasts
episode
forever.
Which the half hour of episode I watched, which, not half hour, the 10 minutes episode I watched, which didn't have audio, it looked like a fairly faithful recreation, sort of
Yeah.
recreation of Lost.
I think
Beast.
it probably.
The book Maze of the Beast.
You know that they came with how to draw the
600.
characters from Del Toro. They had like a special book with how to draw things, and there's like the mudlets or whatever they're called, which are like the horsey things that were kind of like zebras, and they had like three legs.
Yeah.
Yeah, like how to draw that. That was amazing.
Yeah, I bought all of those books as a
Yeah.
child.
Bringing
They're
back all the
fantastic.
best memories.
To be honest, I read like most of them, I would say, but I think I've forgotten absolutely everything from my childhood
Same.
because I don't remember the plot line at all.
I read
just
the first two series. I
remember it was
loved
quite
it as
fun.
thirds.
It was quite amusing
I
to
had a
read,
copy of
but
the second book that had one of those shiny covers that when you like held them
The
in different
holographic
yeah,
covers.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
were
those
wonderful.
I think
Yeah.
I still have it
Anyone
actually.
read Redwall?
No.
Redwall?
Deafening silence.
Did
yeah.
anybody read Aragon?
I
Yes.
read-
I have a bone to pick
Oh,
with Christopher
I
Paolini.
actually do.
I mean, I have many, but the first point is that I had a look at his map recently, and I got very mad because he used a lot of the same things that you find in Dungeons and Dragons maps, and I got very angry
Like
about
what?
it because he's lazy.
He did plagiarize a lot.
He plagiarizes
Wow.
so much.
My letters.
Also,
He never wrote me back.
Other key things in plagiarism, I want you to all stop for a second and
Stop
think
doing
about
that with your hands.
how similar Aragon sounds to Aragon.
Yeah.
And I want you to consider how similar the plot line is from that
If
series
you read
to
the
Lord of the Rings.
pronunciation in the back of the book, it's actually Aragon, not Aragon. So it's
of
Well,
course.
I think the fact that we introduced this conversation as the Aragon series instead of the Aragon series.
It's because you guys
indicates
read, he
something.
literally has an appendix in the back of the book telling you how to pronounce the name.
You know who else has one of those?
Tolkien.
Tolkien.
He does.
this conspiracy
Plagiarism
like-
on so many levels.
Okay, the
He
kid-
just froze himself and
he
gave
was, like,
himself a
15
new
when he started
name.
writing it, so like applause.
Yeah,
to
that's
him.
fair. That's more than
I actually
fair.
only read the fourth one recently because you lent it to me.
I did let
Wow.
you
That
read the
was-
whole
and that
bit.
Yeah,
was
when I
enough.
say lent it, I mean I'm keeping
I
it.
could not
No.
get past that.
It makes my bookshelf complete.
Now, the fourth bookshelf was Brisinga, was it?
No,
No,
Brisinga. So it was
Aragon,
eldest.
eldest.
Brisingia,
It's not-
Brisingia.
no,
Brisingaio, and Inheritance.
Brisinga.
Inheritance, of course.
Yeah.
Brisinga.
The big theme of the series was inheritance. So, like, from the old, I think it was Bronn. Was his,
Bron.
A theme, really.
Yeah, it was, because it's all about his father and his family and what he gets. The original sword he had, spoiler alert, was the red sword that his, like... Zarok was the sword of his brother, and it was about his brother inheriting the sword instead of him. And it was all about the way in which, like, characters learned from their parents and got stuff from their parents.
Did you also know it's a bit of Doctor Who fan fiction?
Really?
Yeah, apparently he's a massive fan of Doctor Who, and actually if you look, the reference to the Lonely God is confirmed as being Doctor Who in his blue box. And Aaron and Aragorn had like a massive like
so that's where they came from.
I have a good idea. Well, not good. It's a terrible idea. But I want to do anyway. Is I want to either write a book series, make a TV series, this is very long running, and then always is finished, ruin it, just going a really, really crazy left turn, but no, it's completely canon. So the equivalent would be, I want to write all of Lord of the Rings, and then the final battle, a time like portal opens up, and the darks come through, and it's literally, cross-fiction with Doctor Who now. So like that. Or just turns out Sauron is actually, it's all like a computer simulation. Just go completely
It's
off.
the Matrix.
No,
Yeah, pretty much.
they woke up, it was all a dream. That was the absolute like pinnacle of twist back in year 5 creative writing. Like the extent where teachers had to request before you wrote a story that it shouldn't be a dream that you woke up for at the end, just because that was, used quite regularly as a bit of a haha gotcha to the audience.
It's when you're doing those like NAPLAN tests and you're like, we've got 10 minutes left, and you're like, well, this is all I've got time for to finish my story.
It was all a dream.
I do a really good subversion of that when I was in year 5, actually.
Oh,
I
did
started up with a kid who woke up from a dream. Turned out he never actually woke up, though.
Wow.
Cool.
Look
The
at,
entire
look
story
at,
was a dream.
look
It was
at
essentially
Michael
the story.
Franz just like being brilliant from, year 5. Speaking of which, I actually found a box in Franz's
Not
house.
part of the system, guys.
A box in Franz's house which has a wonderful collection of
Don't try
Franz's
and box
old
me in.
some of his old writing, and there was an
dear.
amazing bunch of comics. My favorite was it Tornado Man versus the Robot?
No, it was a comic series I
Dr.
wrote back
Dog
in year 4.
versus Mouse Man.
Hear me out. Okay, I will get to these one at a time. First was Monster Wars, which was a weekly comic.
It was
I say
pretty
weekly.
great.
And it was basically two generic monsters inspired by 50s, 60s monster films. I had Windor, the Living Tornado, one episode versus Project X, which was a robot from Japan.
Of course it's from Japan.
Yeah, of course it was. 'Cause I was racist as a kid. Then there's Magma versus Bigfoot and Reptor. That's really all I got most of the time. They were pretty bad. But anyway, the other one which I was proud of was actually a relatively large spanning comic book franchise.
Comic book
Katy doesn't
franchise.
25 episodes. It was on
Wow.
Mouse Man. It was in a world inhabited by anthropomorphic animals, predominantly rodents, like mice and stuff. There obviously spanning other things like cats and dogs in there as well. But it got pretty dark. Like by the 10th episode, I introduced this religious cult called the Order of the Angel, who were trying to hunt down and kill everyone in the world with superpowers. And obviously because they believed in racial purity, and mentioned the fact that the survivors of the humans in the world were survivors of the Nazi human genocide, which occurred back in the past. So it was.
It's like a weird twist. Have you guys seen the graphic novel Mouse?
We just read
Yeah.
it for English.
I've heard that.
It's
it looks-
literally a graphic
was it
novel about a
aliens,
guy who writes his father's story during the Holocaust, but all the people that are Jewish are depicted as mice.
How was he when he wrote this?
I don't know.
Motherfucker, I was 10.
You might want to have a look at that.
Can confirm that Mouse Man is like a fantastic series. Would recommend.
For the psychology students out there, I think you're picking up a lot of warning signs coming out of this chat right now, and I think you should probably all be concerned.
Shut up, Edmond, you're on drugs. You don't know what's happening.
Your points are
Some
invalid.
of you write a comic. As a child, all my young write-ins, sometimes I have all of them still, and I go back and read them, and I was like, this is so dark. I wrote horribly dark things, even early high school years, to the point where I was like, why? Some of them I submitted for assessment in creative writing, and I'm like, why did my English teacher not send me to the council? I had a poetry anthology called Poems of Greater or Lesser Despair, and it was bound with
Good
red
title.
velvet.
I'd read that.
Well, some of them are limericks.
I mean, to be fair, if you're going to use a poem to create the atmosphere of despair, Limerick's an ambitious choice. I commend you for them.
It was so bad.
What
It's
was the
year 8
band
poetry.
from- What rhymes with unbearable or tragic? I'm just gonna think of this.
Unbearable, like terrible.
No,
That's
right.
terrible, right?
That's whatever.
Ha ha ha. Insert
So
fake
on
laughter
the-
here.
Topic of limericks. Who has any good limericks?
I'll be honest,
I don't
don't
like that
fully
topic.
understand.
On the
Okay,
topic
I
of
have a good
artistic
limerick.
childhood work, I remember scene for scene recreating the Star Wars series with textures. And I made all of the prequels because I had terrible taste in films back then.
I
And
like the prequel films.
The prequels were terrible. We're not even going there.
Wait, did you
But-
say you liked them?
I do, yeah.
I enjoyed the prequel
Nothing wrong with
movies.
You and McGregor. What?
You and Regret.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Man.
He
Did you see him in
hits.
Angels and Demons?
Yeah.
That was
Sorry, we
pretty.
cut
Yeah.
Edmond off. He was telling us about his
Sorry.
hobbies.
Sorry,
That
Mum.
that's basically the climax of the story anyway. I meticulously recreated these stories and then no one ever saw them because I later burnt them as an adult, realizing how shameful they were.
See, that's
Wow.
the fucked up part of the story that you burned.
I am with Edmond on this one. I have a box of very embarrassing pieces of creative writing, spanning from my age 3 poems about ladybugs to age 8 really emo, dark, depressing shit about people dying and being
Yep.
killed in awful ways, and then three like a trilogy of poems, poetry books. And I did try and burn these, but unfortunately my parents rescued them and are somewhere in my house, and they'll resurface my 21st, and that's why I can't have a 21st. Sorry in advance.
Wow.
My parents
Yeah,
have a
pretty
box. They started a box for me and my sister. We're not supposed to know about it. I don't know. They're not very good at not telling us things. Anyway, we have 2 boxes that have been like consistently contributing to the boxes like through our entire childhood years. Like for our whole lives, they've been adding things to the box. And then when we turn 21, everything that's in there comes out on our 21st. And we have no idea what goes into the box.
You're going to be pretty humiliated.
Yeah.
But to be fair, like I've been brought up with parents that have like I don't experience humiliation as the same as anyone else anymore. Like as an actor and as someone who has had incredibly embarrassing parents, like I'm a little bit above it sometimes.
To be fair, I can respect anyone who's willing to commit to a 21-year project, though. So
Yeah, that's true.
It's so good. I mean, like children are a 21-year-old. 21-year-old
yes,
project.
we've probably got about 5 minutes left. We had a thing previously where Natasha suggested we do an advice section on the podcast. Anyone have any advice they want answered this week?
Probably start studying for exams, hey?
I have some good advice, actually relevant to what we were talking about, which I think makes it doubly good advice. Check through your Facebook history. Go back to when you first created Facebook.
Delete
Find those
everything.
really embarrassing selfies you took of yourself and delete them.
No, don't.
Delete it.
No, Facebook is meant to be a digital archive.
Okay.
No.
This leads excellently. If anyone wants to do something, go back to the year 9 Michael Franz on Facebook. You find some excellent pieces, including Michael Franz is a pseudo omniscient godlike person.
Okay.
Michael Franz has washed his hair.
Pseudo-omniscient.
This
Michael
is
Franz
embarrassing.
is washing his
this
hair.
is true, but I maintain that one day when everyone else has deleted all their stuff from the past, and I still have mine, it will be a treasured memory.
It's really
Or
good.
at least,
Monday.
okay, the thing is, once you destroy information, you can't undelete your stuff from Facebook, right? You can sanitize your Facebook account, but you can never recollect the very unique and very... ultimately, one day future historians will
There are some things that
embrace
you
this
don't always
information.
want
and
to
keep it.
Basically, like after relationships, sometimes you go through and delete all your photos where you run together
No,
because you don't.
God.
okay.
No.
No,
Yes.
Then a few months down the track, you regret that because it's still a memory which you will
But I
no
kept
longer
all
be...
the photos. They're just in a hidden folder in my computer where I never have to look at them ever.
Back in high school, I had a Facebook relationship. Essentially, it was very embarrassing. And it
They
was
held hands once.
Barely.
It's too real, Edmond. And so I had to go through and delete all of that. Yeah, just looking back, I did wonder what I was doing with my life. So definitely delete your old stuff, or just hope Michael Franz never does and go back and look at his account.
Yeah, I think we can all agree a healthy pruning of your Facebook account never hurts.
It's not unfriendly
Yeah.
you people, that's the solution.
No, I mean, okay, look, well, we are in the 21st century. A lot of people's bosses tend to add them on social media just to see that they have hired the right person, because currently... Really? No, really.
No, I'm thinking about what Michael's boss is going to do when he
This is true.
scrolls. Hello, Java.
A pseudo-omniscient. Oh my god.
Of my company, no. Okay, if my boss is
Put that in
checking
job
up
application.
on Michael Franz from year 9 to someone to hire me in the year 2015, now I'm
Yeah.
22 years
No.
old.
Franz, you got friends who would love to go through your Facebook and bring all this stuff back onto your timeline.
We're
Sure.
gonna do
So-
it tonight.
It's all going to come back on your timeline. I'm pretty sure your boss would see it.
Like, at the point my friends are they trying to get me fired? Is that the solution?
Considering that- Like,
Photoshopping a
I mean-
swastika tattoo onto your butt. I mean, sorry, not photoshopping, just taking photos of it.
You never know.
It's all okay though, because like every single thing you've ever done is stored on an NSA like file server somewhere,
Yeah,
so
that's
it's never
true.
really.
So if you ever want it back, you just write a letter to them.
Point
Right?
is, okay, maybe political office. That might be something where people. Oh, actually, start going back for my past weeks. I really have any plans to do that. But in terms of employment by itself, I feel relatively safe. I don't fear my future bosses checking out what I was writing on 2006. If they are, then
Enough.
Did Facebook even exist in 2006?
Yeah, I think so.
God.
I'm
Started
pretty
in
sure
2004.
There we go.
Better question: will Facebook still be relevant by 2030 in like later times in our lives?
Oh, there'll be
I
like
don't
an
think so.
archive of this stuff.
It'll be the new MySpace.
Like the repository of information that Facebook has provided, at least people will be able to go back to. It'll be stored somewhere somehow.
Who's to say Facebook won't go out of business and like have their servers destroyed? Things actually happen like that, and we lose records. I mean, I for one would like probably love if my records were destroyed.
Oh dear.
Oh god, Mont, you've really taken this talkback radio style too far.
Yeah.
Like,
Someone please hire me.
720 FM, AM, are you listening?
Can someone just like let Mon do the entirety of the next podcast by himself? Just Mom be like, no, I'm not grooming tips. Men, beards are unacceptable.
The Bondcast.
Anything below the eyebrows is to be removed.
Sorry.
Quote from earlier. I wouldn't mind if someone waxed my legs, Edmond.
Well, if someone pays for the waxing, then as far as I'm concerned, it's
I'm with you on that.
Win-win.
One, at least.
I'll shave you from head to toe, man. I got no problem with that.
We should probably wrap up soon. Anyone have any idea of what the song for this episode should be?
I think this episode was a lot about like childhood and memories and stuff. I reckon we can bring out some really old classic songs for kids. not classic songs. Let me
I
recharacterize
vote
that.
Fruit Salad by the Wiggles.
You know what, I think this
S
week,
Club
this week
7
we're going to go.
Oh.
This week, sorry guys, this week we'll start in a second, but instead of doing regular one, we'll start with Edmond taking us away to a track. So Edmond, would you like to tell us what song we're going to cut out to?
We are going to be cutting out to Hokey Pokey.
Deliver it like a radio presenter though.
Oh, well. No, I don't know how to do that. That's far too hard. That's beyond my radio
Edmund, can you
skills.
do it in your Russian accent, please? Don't disappoint.
So, next episode, we will be hearing from Hokey Pokey by Wiggle, greatest song ever made in our glorious nation of Soviet Union. Thank you all for listening. Remember, sign into Radio USSR next week, same time.
You put your right arm in, you put your right